Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our final session of day 3 for Athena Hack 2022. Really looking forward to this one, joined by platinum sponsors PwC. I'm going to kind of have a bit of a talk from Samitha, who I'll pass over to for an intro in a second, and then go into a Q&A. So if you guys have any questions throughout, let us know in the comments. And if you kind of need anything watching retrospectively, let us know on Discord. But without further ado, Samitha, I think I'll pass over to you for an intro, and you can take it from there.
Thank you, Alex. So just to introduce myself, I am Samitha Fernandez Musoles. Easily rolls off the tongue, just in case you were wondering. As you can see, probably, I am Indian with a very Spanish name. So this bit of I'm married into a Spanish family, so that gives the fancy surname. So I always find it quite interesting when I talk to anyone. People kind of go, "Oh, where are you from?" So that's me. I am a senior manager at PwC. And I was just before the session, I was doing a bit of a count on how long I've been working. So that comes to just over 15 years. I started my career back in 2007. I work in financial services, and in banking, and I'm very specialized in that. I work specifically in payment processing. So if you think about it, I'm hoping every single one of you has done some sort of payment transaction in your life, and that's the area I work in, and it's within technology. And I've had quite an interesting career in the last 15 years. I started my career in India, in the southern part of India, in Chennai, out of university. And then I moved to the UK in 2009 for a 3-week assignment. I am still here, so that 3-week hasn't quite finished. And then I moved jobs about in 2010, and previous to PwC, I worked at Accenture, and as it happens, life just took over, and here I am in 2022. And I joined PwC in 2020, just before lockdown. Actually, I joined in February, so I had a good sort of 6 weeks of really enjoying the office life and the buzz around it. And I'm not based in London, which is normally what everybody says. You know, you're in financial services, surely you are in London. I am not. I am based in Manchester, though today I am circumstantially doing this from London. So that's a bit about me. What I thought I would do today is just talk you through like all of the different kind of jobs I've done in my career, if you like, and then talk a little bit about what actually technology means to me, right? Because it may not all be what everybody thinks technology is. And then touch on what does it mean to be a woman in technology. I think there's like two different things there about just technology, and then what it means to be a woman in technology. And then just maybe some tips and pointers on what I've learned from my career as something that are really, really important. So like I said, I started in India, and I started in a tech firm. Before that, I was in university. I went to actually study genetic engineering, nothing to do with tech. I did 1 semester and decided that was not for me at all. I couldn't imagine myself being in a lab coat day after day for the rest of my life. And I found it quite interesting that the computer science department seemed to have a lot more fun than we did, because they didn't have to do as much lab sessions. And so I decided to put in an application to switch from my genetic engineering to a computer science course. And it's only when I actually got to the course I realized I was the only woman in the course, which made life very interesting, if you like. And in India, there's a lot of stereotypes. There's a lot of ways that cultural things that are involved. But I find that quite enlightening, being in a class and the only woman, and who'd never ever owned a computer before that, never ever written a piece of code before that. And it was just out of pure fascination that I decided to do the course, and I absolutely enjoyed it. And I think I was in love with the idea of sitting in front of a computer and being able to create something of my own and see it work. And so I finished uni, and then went on to my first job, which was in a tech company. And my job there was I had to create in a little notebook kind of thing, a computer version of a notebook, going lots and lots of data for a project team which was delivering a shiny website. All I had to do is just type in some numbers and give it to a bunch of people they could use. And from then on, I kind of became a tester. Then I came to this country, and I just went from doing testing jobs to kind of more management jobs, and it just kind of kept growing from there. And it was all very much in the payment space, and I think part of it was coincidental, if you like, in terms of the fact that I ended up doing payments. So technology for me, what it's really meant over the years is, like I said, I started, kind of university trying to create things of my own, and it was all about cracking the simple problem of how do you get 2 + 2 to be done by a computer, right? I know 2 + 2 is 4, but how do I write that into a computer and make it say 4? And then it went to how do I type out hello world? It was so exciting, I couldn't tell you. But and then I started testing. I started working on payments. The systems got bigger, the systems got more complex. But I never really, even though I enjoyed it and I was quite good at it, I don't think I was really the person who sat in the background and wrote lots and lots of actual code, as most people perceive technology to be. It's not always about go and write, oh, I need to do this software language or that software language. For me, it was always about problem solving. How do you come to an answer, arrive at an answer for something in the simplest, most efficient way? And that was what it was all about to me. And that's what I loved about the whole thing. And I still do. And that's what day in and day out is all about problem solving. What I do at present is I work with quite a large bank, and we do some big transformation jobs, if you like, and I lead the delivery of some large scale programs. And my day job, even though it's 100% in technology, I don't do any tech. I manage the tech teams, I problem solve for the tech teams, and I help them get to where they need to be. And so technology could have so many different roles. Like I said, tried to create the beautiful hello worlds, to doing lots and lots of testing. And it's quite interesting. Again, it's not very systems. When you think about testing, it's all about how you relate to real life world. Does an application or a little app in your phone give you what it really what you want it to do as an individual or as a consumer? Quite often, I think we think of technology as something out there, something really hard, something quite hard to get to. But you use it every day. You use your phone every day. You use apps every day. You use things every day, and we don't really worry about those things.
I think Samitha's internet's just dropped off, which is a classic form of issue when it comes to these kind of sessions that luckily we actually haven't had to deal with so far. Oh, there we go. You're back, Samitha, you're back.
Yeah, okay. So what I'm saying now is, the one thing I've noticed all through my career is that it can get quite lonely as a woman in different parts of your teams. I think it's quite easy to be the one woman in the team. And quite often I find when I was more, when I started my career, I always felt there was lots of women on the team. We were always equal. But I think as you go through your journey, it can get quite lonely. And there are various reasons why that happens. And as looking back and this is a story I tell any group I go to. In my first job, in my first role, like I said, all I had to do is churn out all these fancy little test data. And I started that as a trainee along with one of my colleagues, a 6 foot tall man, and I am petite by comparison. And every day we would have this the director on the program who'd walk up to this colleague of mine, tell him what he needed for the day, and then we'll chat between the two of us and we'll get the work done. And that was fine for me. I never realized there was anything wrong with that until the day when my colleague was off sick. And so this director walks into the room, looks around, goes back into his cubicle, back again. About the third time, I kind of realized it's the penny drop moment that he doesn't actually recognize me as part of his team. So he's just looking for this other person to talk to. And I remember standing up, and now when I look back, I think that could have been career limiting. I remember standing up, going to him and saying, I actually work in your team. I'm the one who does the job. So if you need something doing, you could actually talk to me as well. And I think fresh out of university, I was pretty fearless, but now think back, I think it might have very well been a little bit career limiting. But I think he took it in the good spirit. And over the years, I've felt there've been many instances where I felt lonely. And it's quite hard. And you've got to have people around you who are there to support you, lift you up, and champion you. And that's been the greatest thing, I think the greatest strength of my career as well. I've managed to find those people who've been there to support my growth, support my career, and kind of just give you that, you grow because you're standing on the shoulder of giants. And that's been like so amazing as part of my journey. And this is all great, wonderful. You do your hours, you're doing really successful. And then along comes getting married, and along comes having your first child. And then you're going to go, oh, now here's a new challenge. And I remember just before I went on maternity leave, I was asked to write a blog. And I was writing about, what it was like to go on maternity leave. And I thought about it, and I went, hang on a minute. If I am gone, there's nobody here on a managerial role who's a woman, and it was like that kind of another penny drop moment for me, was saying, like, I'm a manager at this stage, and when I go on maternity leave, there are no other women managers on the team, and it's a pretty big team, and lots of women. They're all quite junior down, and I think that was that kind of age group where people were getting married, were going off to do their own thing. 14 months in, came back, and it was a difficult journey coming back and resettling into a consulting job as well, because they are hard, and it was obviously pre-COVID days, which meant you were expected to live out of suitcases all the time. And I think the amount of air miles I've got, and it would be an absolute disgrace on my if you think of it, of your carbon emissions. But coming back, the first thing I found is this whole kind of barrier to progress, which was, oh, you can't travel 5 days a week. Now you think about it, right? We've survived COVID without traveling. It's not been a problem. And I just went, oh, but you would have childcare issues. Ooh, not sure about putting you in that role. That's a really difficult role to do. And it took a really, really nice director who kind of took me under a wing without even thinking about it, and no idea what triggered that. And in no time, I was back in, I had a role, I was back to doing stuff the way I was doing, and I've not looked back since. And again, it's that kind of, I've had somebody who's just really given me that level playing field to get going. So it's been a fun journey. It's been exciting. There's been ups and downs. But the things I would really say is, I had people who championed me, which made it really, really, really amazing, because I think that made all the difference, being successful or not. I had people who constantly encouraged me to strive better, to get to the next level. I remember back in my consultant days, and this is in 2020, I had my first review at Accenture, and I remember telling the senior manager I said, I was in shock that I had done well in the performance round, because I'd only been there 3 months at the time. And I said, oh yeah, that's it. I'm not going anywhere beyond consultant. I'm so happy with my rating. That's it. Here I am, senior manager on the throes of directorship, going, yeah, if I look back in 2020, consultant me would have said, yeah, I'm not going to get to manager. Surely I've achieved great things now that I'm consultant. But here we are, and, inspire other people. Everyone's got a story, and everyone's got something that they can share. I struggled, and the thing I love about PwC, I feel I've got so many role models, women who can tell you how they went part-time and they're now partners, and how they've done it, managing, balancing childcare, balancing really ambitious jobs. Inspire other people, because your story is going to be so important to somebody out there who might be in a similar situation. So when you're in that kind of position where you're able to champion other people, do it. Make sure you do it all the time. Encourage everybody around you, right? It's bring people together, inspire each other. That's really important. And most of all, don't worry about technology. It's really easy. It comes down to problem solving. The way you do it every day, all day in life, that's what it's all about. There's some fancy names around it, but that's it. It's as simple as that. So I'm going to hand over to Alex if you've got any questions for me.
I really like how simply you have managed to make technology sound by by saying how it's just everyday life, and I think it's a good point. I think I'll kind of start with a couple of questions to myself. I think if anyone listening as well has any questions, then let us know, and I think we can probably do some further introductions as well, because we've got some amazing women at PwC here with us that can help answer some of the questions too. So I think while we kind of wait for a couple of questions, do we want to do some intros of everyone else first? If we move over, we'll go to the next slide and do it by order, shall we? So Sana, do we want to go first and give a quick intro to who you are and your life at PwC?
Yes, absolutely. So, hi everyone, my name's Sana, and I actually joined PwC in October 2021. So, I'm quite new, but yeah, I joined, and so far I've been finding it amazing. I'm actually working on a project with Sumitha, so I'm very lucky to be learning from her, and I'm really enjoying my time here. So, yeah, that's me. And I'll pass on to Caitlin.
Hi everyone, my name is Caitlin. I work in PwC Belfast, and I joined the firm back in October 2019, so about 2.5 years ago now, just over 2.5 years. And I sit currently within our digital and tech transformation team, where we've got a few changes happening at the minute, but essentially working on tech implementations. My background is actually in languages. I did Spanish and Portuguese as my undergrad degree, didn't do a master's, and PwC took me as I was, as someone that was like really keen to learn. And I joined the Tech Foundation program, just like the other ladies on this call, and now I'm working in tech. So I think it's been a big thing, tech, as Sumitha said, like obviously it is problem solving, and if you're someone that can do that, then there's opportunities for you, and PwC supports that, which has been great. Laura, do you want to go next?
Yeah, I wasn't sure which way we were going round then. Hi everyone, I'm Laura Walker, and I'm a senior associate from our Leeds office, like Sana and Sophia as well. And I also, like Caitlin, sit within our digital and tech transformation business, which is a little bit of a mouthful. And like Caitlin, I didn't have a conventional route. So I did history at university, which has no relevance to technology and completely proves Sumitha's point that you don't need to know a huge amount to get started. And then I worked in tech recruitment for a little bit before realizing that I wanted to be on this side. And I've primarily work in the public sector, so helping clients from government and health with all of their tech implementation, strategy and delivery. So Sophia, looks like you're next.
Last but not least, yeah. So hi everyone, I'm Sophia. I joined PwC back in October 2020, so that's just over 1.5 years ago. As Laura said, I'm based in the Leeds office. So again, like the firm is really quite regionally spread out, which is really nice, and you meet colleagues from all over the country. I sit in the data and analytics practice, so I do a lot of work around data science, data modeling, data architecture, primarily helping clients in our private sector. My background is in the sciences, so I actually started working my working career in product development, so in a lab similar to the stories you've heard so far today, and realised that's not quite for me. I prefer sitting behind a computer and maybe being slightly less sociable. So yeah, that's my background.
Thank you all very much, and thank you for navigating the field of who's going to go next, because it's always a tricky one with intros. So thank you, Sumitha. I think kind of touching on a couple of things that you mentioned, and one of one of the things throughout this week, really, with other sessions as well, that's come up a lot is the importance of mentors, the importance of advice, and obviously to have that figure, like you say, a role model, but someone to take you under their wing, I think has come up in the majority of talks when we've asked about advice and key things when carving out a career in tech. So is there anything that you can sort of do to source those mentors? Is there any way you find them? Is it just on your career you sort of hope that you find them? Is it, there's kind of places and communities to go, or just is the kind of advice in general for the best ways of going and finding mentorship, I suppose?
I don't think there's one right way for which fits most everybody, right? You're going to find your own path. There are a lot of different programs of mentorship that happen in the UK, which I think people should try and seize. PwC does a lot of it, sponsors, supports a lot of those things, which is really amazing. What I found for me personally is in my career where I have found somebody who I think, is supportive, I've just kind of grabbed on, latched on, and stayed on. I think you walk into a project one day and you find that one person who's willing to ask you a second time if you're okay. I think that's that person that you make sure you are staying in touch. And it's all about, it's with mentorship, it's a give and take because both people are going to benefit from it. So the more you put into it, the more you get out of it as well. The more time you invest talking to people, you're just going to learn so much more. Like I said, I don't think there's one way. What worked for me is just kind of making sure I latched on to anybody who is supportive. But there are also lots of different programs that people can go to and get that mentorship.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't know if anyone else has kind of anything to add to that, because it is definitely something that's come up a lot this week, is the importance of mentorship. And I guess for those of you, so Sana, Caitlin, Laura, and Sophia, who I guess are kind of more toward the start of your journey in tech, whether there's anything kind of that you've seen or tapped into over the last couple of years.
Yeah, I'm happy to jump in. So I guess the key advice that I would give is look for someone who is 5 years ahead of you in your career. So where you want to be in 5 years, find that person and then ask them if they can be your mentor. And everyone that I've asked or know that other colleagues have asked has always appreciated that. But trying to look a bit more medium long term always helps, because that person's ahead of you and they can also stop you making mistakes that they might have made or give you advice. And I'd also say that, and I'm sure Caitlin's quite similar, that as we're slightly more senior in our career, we've now become mentors, which is quite nice. So actually, we've appreciated being other people's mentees and can now kind of step up and become mentors for others has been really valuable. So making sure that you're also passing it forward has been really helpful.
Cool. Thank you very much. I think that's hopefully some good advice. And I think, like you say, there are kind of schemes within PwC, within others as well, to kind of help find that. So I think it's definitely a really important point that's come up. And when we talk about carving that career out, it's an interesting piece of advice to go and find. I think to kind of touch on as well, just kind of, Caitlin, what you were saying around your background as well, and I think a couple of others having differences between, what you thought you were going to do, what you ended up doing. In the past, we've discussed, and I think this maybe even dates back to Athena last year, has been the kind of the entry level expectation and kind of the stereotypes around, a career in tech, and it's just for men and it's not for women, or if maybe not even gender based, that it's kind of a boring sitting at a screen all day. If you kind of had a different perception, or the perception you have now of tech when you were kind of at school and making your decisions, do you think it would have changed what you'd have done, or do you think you would have still kind of gone down the path that you've gone down? I guess that's an open question, which, I mean, I don't know if anyone has any thoughts, but kind of a can of worm opener, I guess.
Yeah, I think for me, I was actually, when I was doing my A-levels, I was at a complete crossroads, and I had applied, well, I had written my personal statement for computing and IT, and it was actually, I went to an open day and had a conversation with a professor there and said, look, I don't have any programming experience. I'm a little bit nervous, but like I'm really interested in IT. It's something that I really want to do. And he took one look at me and said, this course, it has a shared first year with computer science. And so you would be up against the very academic people. What subjects do you do? And I said, French, Spanish, and IT. And he said, oh, so you wouldn't be one of the academic people then? And I was completely shocked. I thought, well, I'm someone who's here. You have a sign right beside you saying we want more women in IT. I'm here as a woman in IT, well, interested in doing a career in IT, and you're telling me that you don't think that I would be cut out for it. But then said, oh, well, if you speak languages, you may be okay because coding is like a language, but probably not. So I ended up walking out of that room and straight into a talk about languages, and they said, come, like, we'll welcome you with open arms. And that's how I ended up there. So I was at a point, I think in some ways there was maybe some level of bias in him by just looking at me and thinking, you know, you don't have that programming experience, I'm not cut out for it. But I managed to get my way into a career in IT. I think I always have had that stereotype that it was a kind of male dominated profession because it's all we ever hear about. And when I joined, there were 12 of us joined from the Belfast office and 10 guys and 2 girls. So that didn't really initially lend itself to, you know, combating that stereotype. Excuse me. But then when I went actually into the consulting side of things on all of my projects, I've had very, very balanced teams. I've seen the amount of women that are around, and it was just in that particular intake, it was just a bit of a lower female count in that year. But no, I think that I don't know that knowing that it was a male dominated profession necessarily put me off, and that wasn't the reason that I didn't go down that route. It was just because in the end languages kind of sold themselves a little bit more to me at the time. But I'm really glad that companies like PwC take people regardless of that background and appreciate that actually you can learn a lot about technology and everything that you need to know within the company itself. Yeah, that's me.
Cool, thank you very much. I think, and that's, you know, whilst it's an interesting story, it's a very sad story that was, you know, how it was kind of sold and how, you know, it still is, and part of obviously the issue that everyone faces, and that kind of attitude. I think that's why what you said about PwC kind of taking people in from any background and it being more about the willingness to learn and anything is super important to kind of any career path really, but especially tech with those barriers around it. I think just from my perspective, Samita, kind of one for you again around, and I mean we can open it up as well because I think it's another kind of important thing, and everyone will probably have a slightly different answer. But just to whether there's kind of a piece of advice that if you could go back and tell it to yourself at the start of your career, whether there's anything that stands out to you as sort of maybe not the best piece of advice you've heard, but something that's helped you the most and that would have made you more confident or more effective, or that you just wish you'd have known kind of toward the start of your career.
Oh, I have to really think about this. I think over the years I've got lots and lots of feedback and I think of which one was really important. I think and to kind of go to your previous question as well, I come from a different background, which is I'm in the south of India. Going to uni was an absolute, not an optional thing, and doing sciences and kind of engineering and that kind of subjects was almost forced on you. Doing languages was, you know, that's not what you do, right? But that was just to go to uni and get yourself a job, and then after.
Oh, have we lost Samita again?
It's always tech consultants who have tech problems.
It is always tech consultants that have tech problems. That's you wouldn't believe it how many coders and engineers and everything that we have with terrible internet and dropping out. But I don't know if anyone else Oh, there we go.
Am I back again? Sorry, I think my network's pretty bad.
It's all right.
So saying, you know, it was for me, I think I always kind of envisaged a tech career was going to be at the back of a computer screen. And it was all about you sat and you did your job. It took me a long time, and actually when I got to this country and kind of spoke, and like I said, I had some good mentors, and some of the things is that actually it's not always about your skills in front of a computer that count. It's all the skills that you already have. And I never ever thought of myself as being able to manage a team or deal with people and kind of do people management. And someone very early on in my career said, you know, actually when you talk to some of your clients, they love what you're saying because you sound very insightful. And I never recognized that in me. And I always thought, I just do my job, hand it to somebody else, they will do the rest of it. And I think that was really, really good. And if someone had said that to me at the start of my career, I may have actually kind of not just thought, oh, I've reached the top of the line here, and actually I'd have charted my course a little bit more, back to what Laura was saying, think more medium, long-term goal. I might have done that a lot more, but I've always been very, great, I've achieved this level, brilliant, end of career, I can retire now. Until someone actually said, you know what, you will be doing far more in your career. And I think that was really helpful, because someone there saw my potential for that medium to long term, which I never really saw in me, which I think really turned things around, because then I started going, so I can plan beyond the next year or two. So that was useful. And it goes back to the point around, encourage other people to be their best selves in everything they do.
I think that sounds good. I think that's a very good piece of advice. And I think just to, I guess, move on slightly from that and sort of more toward the field of PwC specifically a bit as well, is there any kind of advice, and I guess it would be interesting to hear from the different stages as well, in terms of that you would have for people like applying to somewhere like PwC? Because I think it's probably something that's quite daunting in itself, even before starting the application process, whether it's, kind of a mindset thing, whether it's a kind of, piece of advice that is good for an application. I think it'd just be kind of interesting to hear from you guys whether there's anything specifically that you think would be a good piece of advice for people applying somewhere like PwC.
I think for me, I'll take this one, is be true to yourself. You can probably see on this call here, we've got quite a, there's only 5 of us here from PwC. We've got quite a variety of backgrounds, experiences, and that reflects really the PwC as a firm. There's so many different people, and they value that different perspective. As Caitlin said, it's not necessarily about the skills that you come in with, it's the attitude and willingness to develop further skills while you're here. And that drive just to be true to yourself while facing these problems that our clients have is one of the fundamental things that the PwC look for. And throughout the application process, that's what they're testing. They're not testing what you know. They're not testing what you have done. They're looking at how you did it and how you showed your true self within that. Because that's what they want. They want people to be authentic and honest. So there's no point lying and say you've done X amount of technical experience thinking it's going to impress them. It's not. They would rather someone came in with less technical experience, but a great attitude to learn, a great way of communicating with people. Because at the end of the day, consulting is a people business. And if you can't talk to people, then, you might not be so successful.
I think that's good. I think it's quite an interesting thing, I think, in the context of a hackathon as well, just for anyone kind of listening going into the weekend as well. It's one of those that you may hear kind of ideas from other people. You may kind of think, oh, this would work or this wouldn't work, or do things that you think we want to see. But some of the best ideas that we've seen throughout the years when we've done the hacks have been kind of wacky ideas that have been really outside the box, and that it doesn't always have to be what you think will impress people. And I think that's, it's a great piece of advice for people applying for PwC. But I also think it's just, a good general piece of career advice, because I think a lot of the time people say what others want to hear, I suppose. But it's it's always good to kind of stick and be true to yourself. I don't know whether there was anyone else that had any kind of advice, or whether we kind of wanted to move on. Or I don't know whether we've had, let me just check the chat to see whether there's anything coming in. Not from the audience, but I've got a couple more anyway, so don't worry, we'll be fine. But do let us know if there is anything you want to know, because I know that we have Discord retrospectively, but it's obviously a great opportunity while everyone's here to kind of ask and get some insight into careers in tech. And I think it's something to take advantage of. So if you do have any questions, let us know. But I think I'll kind of move on my side to, and whether there's obviously bits you can or can't talk about, but sticking, I guess, with the PwC theme, whether there's anything you have done with clients or have done in the past that has enabled you to help build your career in tech, whether it's kind of an experience that you've learned from, you've maybe failed and learned from it, whether it's something that has, you know, kind of crafted you? And I guess it comes down to mentorship as well, slightly, you know, working with other people. But if there's anything that stands out to you kind of client project wise and the work that you're doing that has really helped, you know, carve the career path and build out your career so far.
I can have a go at that one to start. And this is going back to 2010, and there was a major piece of work that was happening in one of the big banks, and I was still new in my job. I hadn't done payments at the time before, and I get a phone call to say, well, we need you in Glasgow on the Monday for a role. And I was still trying to work out how to book flight tickets within compliance and to go from Manchester to Glasgow. And I went into this project, and the person who kind of got me on, I haven't really worked with them before, but I've been working in the same room as them as someone very senior and me, someone tiny down here. And so I went in there, and on the Monday, and I was introduced to absolutely everything I needed to know. And I had this amazing woman, and who I still look up to, she's brilliant, who I was going to share the work with. And then on the Tuesday, she called off sick. And I had to respond to so many things on the Tuesday. And it was day 2. I had no idea what I was doing. I had never managed a team before. And I had about 10 contractors working for me who were all, some of them twice my age. I was this 24-year-old sitting there going, I have no idea what I'm doing. And I remember by the Wednesday being super overwhelmed and having, you know, like, I just can't do it. And I think that week I must have been in the office about till 2 a.m. and back in about 6:30, and people thought I was sleeping in the office, only because I was trying to get my head around what I was doing. And I had this conversation with, at the time, he was a senior manager, saying, great, you've asked me all these questions, I haven't got a clue. And he said, you know what, actually, you probably know all the answers. And he kind of teased it out of me. He just went back to basics and asked me. And I actually realized in the 72 hours, I had picked up so much knowledge to answer all the questions, which I never thought was possible. But it was the greatest experience of my life. I still go back to think, right, it was being thrown in the deep end. I came out swimming. I could have sunk quite easily. Like I said, I've latched onto him since, even though it doesn't work in Accenture anymore, doesn't work in PwC anymore, works somewhere else, and I am still on the text messages when I need to swim and not sink. And it helps, like I said, you know, mentorship really helps, and it's that experience of sometimes you may not think you can do it. If you got the right support around you, you'll absolutely come out swimming. You just have to believe in yourself.
Yeah, I think that sounds great. I don't know whether anyone else had any kind of work stories, potentially not being thrown in quite so much at the deep end, but I don't know whether there's any other stories that can kind of rival that and talk about your kind of experience, whether it's PwC or kind of elsewhere that's helped you so far.
I think I'll start off with mine. I'm a recent joiner, so I'm like still initially starting off. But I remember when I started, I was like a little underconfident, maybe not believing in myself. When it came to like presenting and stuff, I used to be like, I just want to be in the background watching people. But slowly, as it went on, and how we talk about like mentorship and buddies, I had people that I was talking to that was supporting me, that was saying maybe start off with a little like asking questions in a big meeting, and start off with that. And then I started off. And that's what I did. I started off by asking a question, and people were like, well done. Next step is now maybe try to present in front of people. And that's what I went on to do. And then recently I did a whole presentation, but it was a learning and development session, and there was around 30 people that I was presenting in front of. So it's just about believing in yourself and finding them mentors, them buddies that encourage you, and slowly take the step. And you will get there. Of course, I've just started and there's a whole long journey to go, but these small steps, and the person I was when I started and the person I am now, there's such a big difference, and it's only been 7 months. So the more you're pushed into uncomfortable situations or situations that you're not used to, that's how you will grow. And that's how it's been for me. So yeah, it's been really good so far.
Good. And you've obviously got that fresh enthusiasm as well. But
Yeah.
I think it sounds good. And I think just to, I guess to build on that slightly and what you're kind of saying around the putting yourself in kind of uncomfortable situations or things you're unfamiliar with. Is there anything, you know, outside of maybe a work scenario or anything that you think really has helped in a work capacity? Because I think there's probably examples from, you know, whether it's extracurricular, whether it's something at school, at uni, that I think some, you know, we've had talks in the past where they've said that a lot of the things that they had done in their own time had really helped them, like you say, whether it's gaining that confidence, whether it's gaining an understanding, or whether it's kind of applying it then to the job. Is there anything kind of from an extracurricular perspective that you think has really helped or would really help or that you've kind of drawn from in a work capacity maybe? And that can be an open question. You don't necessarily need to answer that, Sana, if you don't have an answer.
I'm just thinking currently.
I can potentially take that. Slightly going left field. So I play rugby league, which again is another scenario where women may find themselves underrepresented. So kind of living my life through that through that stereotype. Yeah, so I think for me, throwing yourself out into sport and doing things sort of to keep yourself fit and energized is one way that actually I found you can bring that into your work. So just challenging yourself to be put in a situation not necessarily comfortable with. Like if I look back to me at school, I wasn't really the sporty person. I was very much the sciencey, quite geeky kind of girl. So as I got to university, I thought, you know what, I'm going to try it out. I'm going to try something different. And I think playing rugby and throwing myself into that environment really set me up to say, when I found myself in that scenario, not enjoying the work I was doing in a lab-based role, actually to go, take a deep breath and throw yourself at tech and say, let's see how this goes. And you know what, it's going to be okay, because if it works out, it works out. And I think it's that attitude just to, again, be true to yourself and just try what you want to do and go for that. I think it's having that confidence too. And I think playing rugby has really helped me sort of rationalize and take a deep breath and go, it's all going to be okay, because the worst that can happen is you might get injured, or it might not go to plan, but you'll learn something from it and then you'll go again next time. So I really think those two things in parallel has really helped me in both a personal capacity and also professionally here in my career at PwC.
Yeah, I completely agree with you, Sophia. I think it's all about putting yourself in situations that are uncomfortable. And by that, it isn't something that you feel really uncomfortable or you're incredibly scared of, but anything that's new, be it work experience, be it internship, being it starting a new hobby at school or anything extracurricular, always feels a little bit daunting. But actually, that's when you're going to experience the most growth. So I don't think it matters hugely what extracurricular opportunity you want to do. But I think it's more about trying constantly throughout your career or throughout school to put yourself in those slightly uncomfortable situations, because that's where you're going to learn the most. And also saying yes to every opportunity. So I've done that maybe a couple too many times throughout my career and ended up with slightly too much work. But actually, it does give you the opportunity for some really amazing things. So outside of kind of client work, I've had lots of different opportunities as part of PwC to help the community, speak at external events like this. I'd really encourage everyone to do the same in kind of school and as you progress throughout your career as well.
From a slightly different angle, so I, as well as being very into languages, I'm just like artsy in general. I don't know why I'm in tech, but I nearly went to music college before I decided not to do that, and nearly did IT and then ended up in languages. So I was going to go and do like flute performance, but I play lots of different musical instruments, like flute, mainly flute, piano, and then I sing as well. And I could easily stand up in front of a hall full of people and play a musical instrument or sing. And then it came to giving a presentation and actually having to speak in front of people, and I completely froze and went, I can't do this, like I'm too shy. I go, well, how can I stand and sing a song or play a flute concerto in front of 2,000 people, but I can't, you know, introduce myself in a room at the front And it was just absolutely ridiculous. And it's when you actually rationalize that, like, look at these things that I'm doing outside of work. Why can I not bring that in? I thought, like, you just need to take exactly what you said, like take those skills. Like, to me, it's felt like such a different world, but actually they're skills that I had. And, you know, the ability to speak to others, like even with my languages as well, I would have been much more comfortable standing in front of a room speaking in Portuguese than doing a presentation in English in work, which just seems completely ludicrous. But it shows that those things I did in my outside of work, I was more than capable of doing presentations and of speaking at things like this. But for me, for some reason, I was putting myself down and telling myself that I wasn't quite good enough, or that there was someone else that was going to be better. But actually, just by taking those skills and qualities and implementing them into my work life, it's allowed me to grow and develop even further.
Yeah, because I think that's really interesting, and I mean, I'm sure there's many psychological studies on it, but like it is really easy to not apply things that you do outside of to work, and there's a weird stigma, I guess, when it's work and when it's a presentation and when you go into a meeting or to a, you know, kind of speaking in front of people, and like you said, Samitha, at the start, you know, when you went into a room with someone who was kind of quite senior that you looked up to, and it's like, well, you know, you're using all the same skills and you're doing all the same things that you would do in an environment if it wasn't that person, but still, you know, it's still kind of overwhelmed. So I think bringing those skills in from outside can be quite a good tip and helpful for people. I don't know. I don't think there are any more questions from the audience themselves. I think if anyone's watching this back retrospectively, like I say, we can answer things on Discord as well, and we can go through it. But I think I just want to say a huge thank you to everyone for joining the panel. It's been enlightening for me. I hope it's been enlightening for everyone else. And it's really great to hear, I think, some of the stuff that PwC are doing in terms of, you know, the eclecticness of everyone's background is great, because I think to kind of encourage people that at that stage of their career to just kind of push on and learn new things is always a positive. So yeah, a huge thank you to everyone for joining. A big thank you to everyone for listening. And if there's anything else that anyone needs, just let us know on Discord. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you, Alex.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.